All right, good afternoon, everybody. How's VMworld going so far? Good? Yeah, good, excellent. My name is Matt Dreyer. I'm joined by John
Dwyer, and I'm a product manager in the Cloud Provider Software Business Unit.
And I'm in product management on VMware Cloud on AWS. So thank you for joining our session this afternoon. We're going to go back and forth just a little bit. I'll just jump off stage here for a second, and then we'll come back up and run you through a whole bunch of very cool stuff, both with VMware Cloud on AWS, vCloud Director, and the broader hybrid cloud ecosystem. So thanks for joining. If you've got any questions, let's please try to use the mic. If you don't, then we'll just ask the question back to you so we can get it on the recording. So thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Matt. So what we've seen in the past couple of years is there's this demand on enterprise administrators is expanding. And it started with VMware. We moved into software-defined networking, software-defined storage. So the complexity of just managing the SDDC stack itself got more complex. You tie into that, ask from management to the enterprise administrators to reduce costs. They want to move from more of a CapEx to an OpEx model. We also have, demands for increased availability of your infrastructure. And then once you ask for increased availability, they also, there's a demand for protecting your workloads. What is your DR strategy? What is your backup strategy that goes along with that? And then the developers get involved and they start asking for crazy things like containers, PaaS platforms to run on. And for the average enterprise administrator, this is a lot to take in and figure out how can I offer this in my current environment. So moving to a hybrid cloud allows you to take what you already know and expand your current offering with, supplement it with what's available from all these different offerings that are out there. The idea really is to extend your current offering, to protect it, and in some cases replace it if you want to move slowly from CapEx to OpEx model. So, the benefits are, increased scale of your current environment, unlocking these new capabilities if you want to move into containers, PaaS platforms, enhancing your offering with migration strategies, DR, backup options, and then the biggest thing is just keeping up with the rising demand of your business. Make sure that you're able to meet the demands of your product offering. So it's no wonder that 80% of organizations, according to IDC, have some form of hybrid cloud strategy. So one of the things, when we look at what are the offerings that you have available to you, we have VMware Cloud Provider partners. We have a great service that VMware ourselves put together that Matt's going to talk about in a minute, VMware Cloud on AWS, plus you have AWS, Azure, Google Cloud out there. And in my particular business unit, we're building software for our cloud provider partners to help you transition in this kind of multi-cloud journey. And as well as offering managed services on all those different cloud offerings, you also have this breadth of services that VMware keeps introducing from our cloud services. Things like Log Insight, Wavefront, App Defense, as well as a marketplace of services that will be available from our ISV partners. So one of the things we wanted to start with was when you're looking into having a hybrid cloud strategy, what should I be thinking about? And so the first thing to me was management. How do I want to manage it? And I think this is a key decision point because, do you want to be fully in control? Do you want to be able to twist all the knobs and all the dials? Make sure that the DRS setting is the automated setting that you want. Do you want API access? Do you want to do infrastructure as service? You use Terraform to integrate with your platform. The second thing to think about is migration. So I already have workloads. How am I going to get the workloads from my current environment to this hybrid cloud environment? And then if I need to, how do I network between the two? Is layer 2 adjacency important for my current workloads? And then the last thing to think about is the future. What is the demands of my business going to bring to me, and can I meet them? So again, does this hybrid cloud offering give me a strategy to get me to a container-based service or whatever it may be in the future? So as we look through, the couple offerings that Matt and I will show you, these are the things to start thinking about your business and how it applies to you. So with that, I'll pass it over to Matt.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so we've been working now for the last many years building out our data center stack to really get to the point that we are at today. And the point that we're at today is we've got over 4,000 providers that provide vSphere and VMware-based clouds. VMware Cloud on AWS is one of them. It happens to run on Amazon, so it's got some unique properties. But I think what you should think about this is just another place to run your vSphere workloads. And so I'll go through a bit about what we've done in the last year with the service, walk through a little bit of a demo, and then we'll keep on trucking. So last year at this show, we actually announced public availability of VMware Cloud on AWS. This was the result of about 2 years of hard work by the team. Fun fact, we actually turned on internal beta for our internal users back on like July 1st, 2016. So the service has come a long way since then. Even in the last year, we've released 200 new features. We've released 4 new SDDC builds and done all the upgrades and the patching. And the feature set is really coming together. And so what we found are a few use cases that really resonate with our customers. And I think these are not just exclusive to VMware Cloud on AWS, but I think this is a pretty good framing of how VMware customers think about moving workloads to the cloud. And so this is pretty much standardized now across what we've seen. The first use case is in data center extension. So I've got some amount of capacity somewhere, and maybe I have a high season or a cyclic workload that I just need to accommodate. I no longer want to over provision by 80% to handle those peak workloads. Instead, I just want to have some capacity available to run holiday season traffic or summer soda sales or flowers or whatever it is. And so we see this as pretty commonly. We used to term this as the burst use case, but VMware customers don't really burst. They know when these seasons are. They're very well planned ahead, and they just want to make sure that they've got that capacity available and ready to roll. And so this one's become very popular. The next one is around disaster recovery. I think all IT practitioners inherently hate disaster recovery, right? You're standing up identical infrastructure, killing trees and burning electricity, and you should only have to use that thing once a year just to prove that it's there. Right, so this is a really solid use case for cloud because you can really minimize that footprint and just sort of get out of the emotional stress of having to know that something's over there and is completely dark. Cloud migrations is another one that we're seeing very frequently. And this one actually kind of surprised us. When we first started thinking about this offer, we were thinking that some of our first workloads were going to be develop and test and short-term stuff. And when the phone started ringing, it was really more about, hey, I'm shutting down the Toledo data center. I'm not going to redo with that colo. I need to get out. Do you have capacity for me? And so that use case on just shutting down infrastructure and moving to an OpEx model has become very popular. And so you can actually see how we've adjusted our feature set to accommodate this. We made some big announcements around HCX with vSphere replication-based vMotion. We've got a couple of great win stories over the last 6 months here. We've had customers that have literally shut down and moved hundreds of VMs over a weekend, which was again sort of mind-blowing. MIT has moved somewhere in the range of 3,000 VMs into the environment in a period of less than 6 months. And they actually would have gone faster had their budgets aligned a little bit differently. And so cloud migration is becoming very real. The advantage here, of course, is that it's vSphere on both ends. You're not having to refactor the VM into some other weird format and do weird testing and new drivers. It's vSphere on both sides. So you landed on VMware Cloud on AWS, you like it, you run it there for a while, you don't like it, move it back or move it somewhere else. And so it gives you that flexibility. And finally, next generation application development. And we're seeing this in lots of weird and wonderful ways. If you really want to dig into this, I've got another session at 5 o'clock this afternoon where we'll actually go through some of these applications that people are starting to build and give you some ideas of what weird hybrid applications look like. Like half the application lives in Amazon, the other half lives in vSphere, integrations with some of the other APIs out there. So What makes this really important is that what this gives you is really nice flexibility in how you're planning your application upgrade and application refactoring. So by simply just moving the application into VMware Cloud on AWS, you now start getting some flexibility, right? You want to swap that database with an RDS instance or swap some functions that you've written with like some Lambda functions. You now at least have a wider toolkit to go after. And of course, the sort of the holy grail there, moving things into containers and keep on trucking. So a really good environment for all these use cases. We do have customers that are doing all of these. And so this has been really nice to see. A couple of the logo slide here. We don't disclose exact customer counts, but these are the ones that have been on stage with us this week. Again, very interesting early cases. PHH Mortgage, that was a data center DR shutdown. They didn't want to renew their DR contract, and working with one of our partners, brought this environment up in just a couple of months. Stagecoach, a very important company in the UK. They manage a bunch of public transit applications. Same deal. They wanted to get out of their data center and are doing very interesting Oracle workloads in VMware Cloud on AWS. Okay, so let me just drill in a little bit to show you what this is all about. When we deploy what we call an SDDC, we are really under the covers using VMware Cloud Foundation. Cloud Foundation is sort of the package and the installer for our core infrastructure suite. So ESXi, vSAN, and NSX, all managed by vCenter Server. So what we do is we deploy this on bare metal hosts at Amazon. The instance type we use is an i3, and soon we'll release the new instance type called R5. These are dedicated bare metal hosts. There's no para-virtualization going on, no nested anything. Like we go and make an API call, get a host, blow the stack onto it, and set it up and rock and roll. The next step to this, and this is optional, is to get a single pane of glass view between your on-prem and your SDDC in VMware Cloud on AWS. This is pretty important for migration use cases. So when you look at starting to move VMs back and forth, what you don't want to have to do is go through a bunch of weird tools to move stuff, right? You want to right-click a VM, do migrate, and just have the thing move. And so we've created a new technology called hybrid linked mode. This is an upgrade of something that we used to call linked mode and later enhanced linked mode that allows you to see this common inventory view and very easily move content back and forth. The other thing that's really nice here is that because we're still just working with the vCenter APIs, all of your existing automation and integrations is going to keep working. So if you're doing automation with vRealize automation or Puppet or what have you, all that stuff will just continue to work. So this is sort of the standard story. Then the cool fun stuff comes in on the other side of the picture. We also instantiate a link to the customer's Amazon account. So everything in blue here is sort of operated by VMware. The customer side is here on the right side. And so the idea is you can go into your Amazon account, provision whatever kinds of workloads and services you want there, and then access them over a very high speed, low latency network link. And you can kind of see the little orange arrow here. And so what this does is allow you very fast access into these services and really a bunch of new thinking in terms of how you modernize applications. Okay, so if that's clear as mud, we'll go ahead and cut into a demo, and I'll just kind of show you what this thing is all about. So go and do the bit here. So what I've done here is I've logged into VMware Cloud on AWS. I want to take just a step back and show you what the broader portfolio looks like. So VMware has been working on a number of cloud services over the last couple of years, and we've now launched quite a few of them. And so we have the Cloud Console is what we call this. This is sort of the home page for all of the services that VMware is introducing. And so you can see we've got a lot of different services that are available. If you want to come in and kick the tires and play with these, I would invite you to do so. My personal favorite, VMware Cloud on AWS. And so from here, we'll click down, and what you'll notice is that we'll change the service endpoint. We'll come from this console down actually into product into VMware Cloud on AWS. Now this whole thing is of course, cloud scale, multi-tenanted, the whole bit. And so what you see that I've landed into is I'm logged in as myself and I'm in my org. And so within my organization, I have other users, other members of my team, and we have various levels of privilege. So I'm an admin in this environment, so I can do things like create SDDCs, add hosts, do all kinds of configuration stuff. Well, what you see here is that I've got a single SDDC that I've deployed. So this box right here, this one that's called VMC Production, is the exact same thing as this blue box in this this slide. So this is just sort of orientation. Within this, you can drill in and see what we've got available. And so this one is currently set up with 4 hosts. The net memory and storage you can see there, and we've got a couple of other features turned on. You can see that this one is deployed in the US West region in Oregon. And is just sitting there running away, costing me money. So what I can do here is I can create a new SDDC very quickly. And the point here is that this is like real cloud. And what we find is that a lot of people that haven't worked in environments like this still kind of think about like ticket-driven systems. Like, hey, I want a new something, I gotta file a ticket, wait 3 months and maybe something will happen. This is all very, very real. And so when you create an SDDC, this is all actuated on the back end by a bunch of APIs and integrations that we've done with Amazon. And so what you do here is you pick the region that you want to land the SDDC in, and you can see these are the regions that we support today. If you were at the keynote yesterday morning, you saw Andy and Pat on stage announcing that we're going to support something like 20 regions over the next 12 months, which means I'm not going to sleep much, but this list is going to keep on growing. So you pick where you're going to want this to land. So let's deploy in Sydney, Australia. You next pick the size, at least the initial size that you want to deploy. Again, these are elastic, so you can resize them and grow and shrink them within some constraints. And so we'll pick a multi-host, and now we can give it a name. So let's give this Matt Demo SDDC. This part is actually kind of cool. So I've chosen to do a multi-host SDDC. It defaults to 4 hosts, but I can actually provision up to 32 in the initial cluster. And so I can actually start replacing whole racks and whole rows with this environment. And again, when I click through these next couple of screens, it will only take 2 hours for this environment to come back and come online. So imagine the time savings and not having to go bolt down a rack and do all the wiring and everything else. You simply deploy, run your workloads for as long as you want, and then at the end of it, you delete it and walk off. There's another interesting feature in here that we have just recently introduced called the stretched cluster. One of the things that you need to get used to in working in cloud environments is that stuff fails. In our service, what we've noticed over the last 12 months is we almost never lose regions and availability zones, but host failures are reasonably common. This is the reason that the vSphere platform is so important, because we have DRS and storage DRS in there managing and moving stuff around. So between DRS and vSphere high availability, we've got a good set of capability to keep your environment up and stable. There is, though, another cool feature in here called the stretched cluster. What the stretched cluster does is it deploys half of your environment in one Amazon availability zone and the other half of the environment in a different availability zone. If you don't know what an Amazon availability zone is, don't worry about it. Essentially what this is another set of protection for your workloads. So by clicking this little box, we actually do network stretching across the availability zones, and we actually take the availability of the service up to 4 nines. And so this is a pretty interesting checkbox. You'll see that the shapes of the SDDCs change a little bit. The minimum count here goes up to 6 because we have to have 3 hosts in each availability zone. but you get the idea. The next step is to connect to an Amazon account. What this is going to give us is that access to those Amazon services via the FastPath ENI. Once we do that account link, this is actually digging into the other side of the Amazon account and providing us a connection point. And our last step is to give this thing an IP address block. I'm not plugged in. Now I am. If I were to hit deploy SDDC, the meter would start running in a couple hours when the environment comes up, and it'd be rocking and rolling, and I would end up with another one of these. So very simple to provision. If you don't like clicking through UIs, if you're a fan of automation, maybe Terraform, CloudFormation, or anything else out there, this whole thing is also available via API. One of the things that we've done a lot of work on here is to really change the way that we think about APIs. And what you'll find is that we actually put all of the APIs right in product along with all of the documentation, and they're all live. And so if you want to create an SDDC with an HTTP post, you just throw in a little JSON payload in here, and you can and do all of your automation on top of it. We've also published a bunch of code samples in here, contributed by a whole bunch of different folks. So we've got lots of good ways to mess around with this in Python, PowerCLI, or kind of the language of your choice. So in SDDC, one of the things that we found early on that was very important was to start with a fairly prescriptive networking model. When you start talking to people about cloud stuff, the first kind of conversations you'll have will start out with the core infrastructure people. Inevitably, you're going to have a conversation with the networking and the security guys. And if you don't have the conversation right, they will brick you for years. And so what we've done here is we've, by default, deployed an environment that is not incredibly powerful, but it's very, very useful. And so what we've done here is we've instantiated a couple of NSX edges. We call one of those the management gateway, and we do the second one called a compute gateway. These are, again, two separate NSX edges. One of them protects the control plane, and the other one protects the what we call the data plane, or where all the workloads are running. These are, of course, internet attached, but by default, the entire environment is firewalled off. From here, you can see we can create firewall and NAT rules to allow traffic into the environment if you want to put up a mail server or a web server. We also have great connectivity back into on-prem. So you can do either IPsec VPN tunnels, you can do a layer 2 VPN tunnels if you want to do vMotion, and you can also ride on top of Amazon Direct Connect circuits if you want super high speed. Those connections come in 1 or 10 gig flavors. The last thing I wanted to point out here is that the link to the Amazon account. So if you've got stuff running over in RDS or in Lambda, this is the way that you traverse the environment to get access to those services. So if you had a database running on this side and some VMs running on the VMware side, you'd simply open up the firewall rules and sort of build out your application that way. But at the end of the day, this is really just vSphere. And so when you take a look at what's down under the covers, you ultimately end up logging into the vCenter server UI. We do use the HTML5 client, and this has been very, very successful for us. What you see here is what you should be seeing in your own data centers, right? We've got a standard vSphere setup. We've got a cluster with 4 hosts. Some resource pools sitting in here with a whole bunch of random VMs that folks have created over the years. Standard data stores. These data stores are backed by vSAN, of course, and so the environment just works. And so that's kind of the quick and dirty of it. So think of this as infrastructure as a service. Think of this as a consistent vSphere environment that is managed by VMware and deployed in Amazon infrastructure. And so what this leaves you to do is to really start managing at the VM on up. So you deal with provisioning of new virtual machines, management of the operating systems, managing of the applications, and not messing around anymore with like dragging out new servers and configuring storage and that sort of stuff. So if those things are attractive to you, this is an interesting offer. With that, I'll go ahead and cut back to the slides. We'll bring John back up, and we'll keep on trucking here. Oh, one last thing. Sales pitch. Now get out your camera. If you wanted to come and do this today, you can literally go online, probably even with your phone, swipe a credit card, and within an hour have one of these things deployed. The pricing on that is $7 an hour. If you don't feel like doing that this afternoon, I encourage you to do it at some point. Fantastic, great promotions, and thanks for listening.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. So you might have heard Pat mention at the keynote VMware Cloud Providers. So one of the questions you probably are asking is, do I need help with this journey to a hybrid cloud? And we have a whole mess of cloud providers out there all over the world. And the great thing is you can take a service like what Matt just described, VMware Cloud on AWS, and you can buy it direct, and you could be off and running in 2 hours with a full SDDC. And that was actually a great segue, talking about dealing with your application. But what if you don't want to deal with everything in between? What if you don't want to deal with managing the OS and you'd like to outsource that to somebody else? So you actually have the opportunity to buy VMware Cloud on AWS through our VMware Cloud Provider partners. And they offer this whole breadth of services above and beyond the core infrastructure. So you could leverage everything Matt just described as core infrastructure, but then you can go above and beyond with OS management, backup strategies and DR and everything above the core infrastructure, so you can really focus on your application and what makes your business unique. When we look at some of the types of offerings that our cloud providers offer on top of VMware Cloud on AWS, these are just some samples, but one of the things we talked about was migration. And if you were going to pick that 32 host cluster to start with, and you had a large scale migration, maybe you need some help planning on that. The devil's in the details on a large scale migration. It's the connectivity and the actual movement of workloads is pretty simple, especially when we have awesome tools like HCX. But actually managing the order and how we move that many workloads, maybe you want to bring in some backup to help you out with that. Then the other thing too is just architecture and design, and specifically the connectivity and readiness between your on-premises environment and the VMC cloud environment. So we have this whole network of cloud providers, and they offer all kinds of different services on top of core VMware products as well as other products. They have practices in AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and they also offer different types of services. So on top of just buying VMware Cloud on AWS, you could also buy dedicated vCenter from them. You could buy multi-tenant IaaS from them, public cloud from them. And just to get a sense of the data center footprint and where we have providers with data centers, we pretty much have you covered no matter where you live in the world. So if you're interested in finding one of these providers, you can go to the same cloud.vmware.com that you could launch VMware Cloud on AWS from and log in. But you can go to /providers right there on the homepage, and you can actually search for a provider. So you can look for somebody in your geography if you need someone down the road to help you out. Or if you're expanding into a new geography and you want to find someone in a specific location, you can also look for ones that offer different types of services with different compliance levels. There's a whole capability in this search that you can dig down and see what sort of offering each provider has. So another offering that a lot of our providers have is public cloud IaaS, or public IaaS. And the core thing that this provides is, again, when we go back to the beginning when I said, how do you want to manage? Maybe you have customers or coworkers that don't want to deal with VMware. And they want to just log in and create VMs. And you want to have a very simple experience for them. So one of the things our providers offer is a public cloud based on vCloud Director. vCloud Director takes the underlying vSphere SDDCs and allows you to slice them up and get pieces of them in a multi-tenant fashion. Also offers complete REST API access, so you can integrate with whatever tools you want for provisioning. And it also provides a true cloud experience by tying together availability zones. So in this shot right here, we basically have 2 VCD instances with a common portal across them. So providers can give you an experience where you log in and you have regions and availability zones, so you can really truly provision anywhere you want. So vCloud Director, its consumption model is a virtual data center. So that's a slice of an SDDC, and you have many ways you can do it. You can get a pay-as-you-go, so you can get on-demand capacity when you need it. You can do an allocation virtual data center, where you have a partial guarantee on the resources that you have access to. And you can also do a reserved, which is a fully isolated instance. So you get a guarantee on all of your capacity. So how do we get our applications into a vCloud Director-based IaaS cloud? So we have a couple different products that we offer. One is vCloud Availability. This is a DR solution. It's based on vSphere replication. It's dead simple to install in your environments. It's the vSphere replication appliance. And it connects over the public internet, SSL encrypted, to a vCloud Director instance. And it allows you to do snapshot-based replication into vCloud Director. It offers down to a 5-minute RPO. And you can do some initial seeding with disk if you have very large VMs. Another option we have for migrating workloads, because you can use any DR solution is also a migration tool, right? But at the same time, we have another free tool that we offer called vCloud Extender. And this is a lightweight application that installs into your vCenter. And it allows you to do migration in a very similar way as vCloud Availability. But the other interesting thing here is it allows you to do L2 stretching for free. So if you have NSX, it'll actually leverage your NSX. But if you don't have NSX, it'll actually deploy a small appliance and allow you to connect to the service provider's vCloud Director running NSX and stretch your layer 2 from on-premises to the cloud. So what about network connectivity? One of the things that's very powerful about vCloud Director is we actually give you multi-tenant view into NSX. So you have full capabilities of NSX in your vCloud Director environment in a simple to consume manner. You can configure your load balancers, you can configure your VPN connections, distributed firewall, everything from a multi-tenant interface. And now for anybody that hasn't seen vCloud Director in the last couple of years, let me just jump to So this is just a quick recorded demo just to show you what vCloud Director looks like. In this view, we have 2 organization virtual data centers. So those are like availability zones. I get a view of my virtual machines. We also have vApps. That's a construct that happens in vCloud Director that allows you to build complex applications and wrap up networking components with them. And the other thing that we've simplified in recent years is we made it just dead simple to create VMs. One of the things vSphere gives you is the flexibility to have complete control over that virtual machine creation. In vCloud Director, what we've done is simplified that greatly so that it makes it easier for end consumers to provision VMs. The average person probably doesn't care very much about what sort of storage adapter is on the virtual machine or network adapter. So we kind of hide that all away in vCloud Director. So we make it dead simple for the average person to just provision VMs quickly. But if you're a VMware admin and you know what you're doing, you can click that customize button and go in and make changes and create very custom workflows or custom virtual machines. Here we also give you sizes, t-shirt sizes, to make creation of VMs really quick. But if you don't want a custom size, you can click customize, go in and create whatever geometry of a virtual machine that you want. In this case, we're just showing the vApp screen really quick. You have the ability to add multiple virtual machines, build complex applications, render the entire networking stack. You can templatize those, save off your firewall rules that are in the application. Here's a very quick view of the networking screen. So we have the ability to create custom networks. This is all backed by NSX. You can define the network, configure the IP space, whether you want it isolated or you want it actually routed through your edge gateway. By default, most providers give their customers an edge gateway to route through, kind of similar to the VMC demo where we have a compute gateway. So you can see the network's created pretty quickly. And then we'll move into the edge firewall. So this is the edge services that are available through NSX. This is a full NSX edge. So when this pops open, we have access to, dynamic static routing, load balancing, VPN configuration, dynamic grouping objects. And when we look at security, this is the distributed firewall interface. So the way we've implemented distributed firewall is a little different. We've actually bound it to the virtual data center. So that's kind of the bounding box of where the firewall rules apply. And you can do the dynamic grouping and security groups to create your firewall rules for the distributed firewall. So that is a very quick nickel tour of VCD. So just wanted to hit back on this real quick. Again, when you're looking for a hybrid cloud strategy, just things to think about. Think about how you're going to manage it, what's important to you, what the interaction looks like, how you plan on moving your workloads to it, how your network connectivity requirements and how you're going to do that, and then what are your future needs for your hybrid cloud environment. So just some things to go from here. If you want to learn more about our cloud providers, we have that guided search available. There's also a ton down on the Solutions Exchange. There's some very big booths down there from very prominent cloud providers with a whole breadth of services available to you. You can try vCloud Director in our hands-on lab. You can try VMC down there. So plenty of options here while you're at the show. And with that, I just wanted to open it up to any questions. If anyone had any questions for me or Matt. Go ahead.
What version of VCD was that?
That was VCD 9.5, which is actually not even available yet. It'll be out in a couple weeks. It was a brand new interface for those that have not seen VCD in a while. So you should see that rolling into your cloud providers very soon.
A question around you mentioned these stretch clustering and stretch deployment. You can click on that box. Is that an expensive box?
So the question was, how expensive is the stretched cluster box? The new expense comes in the incremental number of hosts that are required to be deployed. There's no incremental charge for that feature, but where you'll see the charges are the additional host count, the cost, and additional network traffic charges that traverses the AZs. So yes, they are more expensive than single AZ clusters, but sort of incrementally so. In the back?
Are there any tools to help you kind of classify your workloads as to what would be a good workload to put in the cloud versus, requiring latency requirements, for on-prem?
Good question. So the question's around how do I go about assessing my on-prem environment, and is there tooling available for deciding which workloads to go? Yes. In fact, there's a new feature coming in one of the new cloud services applications called Migration Assessment. This tool, I think, is going online in the next week or so. Right now, what we have on the cloud.vmware.com website are sort of TCO calculators. So, based on some information that you put in, it will give you sort of an approximate size of the cluster that you need to run in VMC. This cloud assessment, which is part of Cost Insight, will actually really go in and mine your current inventory, take a look at your historical stats, and give you a much deeper analysis. So you'll find out more information about that at cloud.vmware.com and look for Cost Insight or Migration Assessment on the site there. Good question.
Can you use Site Recovery Manager for the DR solution?
Yeah, so the question is around support for Site Recovery Manager. Let me just show you that real quick, because it's one of the things that we've done a bunch of extra work on. So in the SDDC, what we've done is a bunch of special work with some of our internal tools to really make those work very, very well. And so one of the buttons that we have is for Site Recovery Manager. Now this is another paid for service, but it's button click activate. So when you click this button, it will automatically deploy the SRM 8.1 bits into your SDDC and give you the download link to bring in the appliance on-prem. So from there, SRM version 8.1, they've done a massive cleanup of the user interface and made it much simpler to create those recovery plans. And so this has been a very popular option for us. The other integration that we've done is with Hybrid Cloud Extension. This serves a slightly different use case. This is for sort of bulk migrations. So if you're going to use the environment as a DR target, we would recommend Site Recovery. If you're doing a mass migration, we'd recommend Hybrid Cloud Extension. That'll give you a very fast WAN optimized connection into the environment, leverages vSphere replication to additionally accelerate. And so these are two very good sort of pre-baked solutions. And what I would expect is that over the next 12 months, we'll have a whole bunch of new tiles in here for all kinds of other cool stuff. In fact, a migration assessment, I think, is the next tile that's going to come in here. That's the question earlier. Good.
Integration with
VRA integration is already supported. So that's one of the integrations that we supported from day one. We've got a number of customers that are using VRA to provision VMs into this environment. I believe they also support provisioning of whole SDDCs. And if not, that's a bit of custom code that you can write very, very easily by doing a custom VRO plugin.
Shows the power of the consistency of keeping the same API, whether it's on premises or in the cloud.
Yeah, that is really one of the core things here. If you're just going to chuck the whole thing and start over, good luck to you. If you want to have a continuous environment, vSphere-based clouds are really the only way to go. All right, why don't we cut it there? We'll take more questions at the side of the stage. Thank you all for attending VMworld 2018, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.